What's up, Bengals Nation? Welcome back to Bengals Breakdown, your home for everything orange and black. And wow, things are heating up again in Cincinnati. According to the always buzzing Adam Schefter, a new list of potential trade candidates has dropped, and yes, one Bengals name made it on there. Honestly, it's not a huge shock, but it's definitely worth talking about. Plus, we'll also take a quick look at a few players the Bengals could target before the NFL trade deadline on November 4th. But before we dive into the latest Bengals update, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss any breaking Bengals news. Alright, let's get into it. So, the name Schefter mentioned? Trey Hendrickson. You've probably seen it everywhere: reports, tweets, even TV segments. Everyone's talking about whether Hendrickson could actually be on the move. The Eagles' name has even popped up in rumors. But let's be real, if Cincinnati even considers this move, they have to get value. We've already seen this story before. No team was ready to give up a first-round pick for Hendrickson, and that's the key problem again. Any trade would likely make him a short-term rental unless the new team gives him a new deal right away. That's a huge factor in the Bengals' decision. Now, Cincinnati already pulled off one move, that Joe Flacco pick swap deal, so they've got momentum. But if they do move Hendrickson, they need to aim for serious draft capital. I'm talking a second-round pick and maybe a conditional mid-rounder. That's the kind of value worth listening to. The Bengals still hold their first, second, third, and fourth-round picks, but lost their fifth in the Flacco trade. 2 sixths and a seventh remain. So if they want to stay aggressive and build for the future, turning a big name like Hendrickson into multiple top 100 picks might just make sense, even if it's tough to see him go. Now here's the truth, Bengals fans. As much as people keep tossing Trey Hendrickson's name into trade talks, let's be real, Cincinnati isn't moving him unless things completely fall apart. If the Bengals somehow drop the next two, first against the Steelers, then the Jets, that could be the breaking point. That's when this team might seriously start reevaluating, maybe even shifting into future building mode. But as of right now, Hendrickson remains a key piece of this defense, and trading him too early could send a wrong message to the locker room. Still, the long-term picture can't be ignored. This team has holes, real ones, and the best way to fix them is through the NFL draft. The frustrating part? Under Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin, Cincinnati hasn't exactly nailed those top 100 picks consistently. That's what makes any potential Hendrickson trade such a gamble. Statistically, Trey's value is still high. He's already logged 4 sacks this season and 8 quarterback hurries, proving once again why he's one of the league's most relentless pass rushers. But the Bengals might already have his eventual replacement waiting in the wings, Shemar Stewart, last year's draft pick. Before his ankle injury, Stewart showed flashes, speed, power, and that same edge that Hendrickson brings off the line. He even earned a start early in the season against the Jaguars, and now, with him returning to full practice this week, there's hope he could suit up versus the Steelers. If he does, that could be a huge boost for this defense. It might also give the Bengals a glimpse of what life could look like if they ever decide to move on from Hendrickson. But for now, the focus is clear: beat Pittsburgh, get back on track, and keep the core together, at least until this team knows exactly where its season is heading. And if Shemar Stewart isn't ready, the Bengals still have depth on the edge: Joseph Ossai and Myles Murphy. Now, I'll admit it, Ossai has surprised people this year. Earlier in the season, a lot of us were questioning his consistency, but he's quietly been one of the bright spots when Trey Hendrickson hasn't been on the field. He's brought energy, pressure, and effort, exactly what you want from a rotational pass rusher. Then there's Myles Murphy, last year's first-round pick. His flashes have been exciting: quick get-off, long reach, and when he's locked in, he looks like a future difference-maker. Still raw, yes, but you can see the potential growing week by week. So here's the real conversation: if the Bengals do decide to move Hendrickson, are they ready to trust these young guys to carry the edge? Because once that trade happens, you're basically signaling that the team is looking toward next season, not chasing this one. And there's another factor: Joseph Ossai's contract. He's heading into the final stretch before free agency in 2026, and the Bengals will need to decide soon if he's part of their long-term plan or if they'll explore the draft again for another edge rusher. Either way, it's clear that Cincinnati is thinking about the future of its defensive line. The front office has already been planning for life after Hendrickson, and the development of guys like Murphy, Ossai, and Stewart will decide how bold the Bengals can afford to be. Up next, let's talk about a few potential trade targets who might actually make sense for the Bengals. Players who could strengthen this roster if the front office decides to stay aggressive before the deadline. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest concerns right now for Cincinnati, the secondary. It's no secret, the Bengals' pass defense hasn't looked sharp this season. And one name that keeps coming up in fan discussions is Cam Taylor-Britt. Once expected to be a breakout player, he's struggled with consistency and has been targeted often by opposing quarterbacks. So, what can the Bengals do? Well, a couple of potential trade names have surfaced around the league. Tariq Woolen from Seattle and Roger McCreary from Tennessee. Woolen is an interesting one. He's got size, speed, and ball-hawking traits you can't teach. But this year, his performance has dipped. He's actually one of the lowest-graded defenders on the Seahawks roster. Still, sometimes a change of scenery can bring out the best in a player, and Lou Anarumo's system might be exactly what Woolen needs to get back to his rookie-year form. As for McCreary, he's more of a slot corner, and that might not fit perfectly with what Cincinnati needs on the outside. But the Bengals could still explore him as depth or a rotational piece if the price is right. Now, let's be honest, this isn't about overreacting. It's about being proactive. The Bengals' secondary has been exposed too often in big moments, and adding competition could be the spark this defense desperately needs. If the Bengals really want to make a push and shore up that back end, Woolen might be the more intriguing name to watch. He's young, athletic, and under the right coaching, could be a difference maker down the stretch. Next up, we'll shift from corners to safeties, because there are a couple of names, including one that's already turning heads, who could realistically fit into the Bengals' defensive plans if the front office decides to make another move. Let's move to the safety position, because that's quietly become another concern for Cincinnati's defense. Look, Geno Stone might be drawing attention on national trade lists, but if we're being honest, that's one player I wouldn't touch. He's playing strong football, and Baltimore won't be eager to move him. But the Bengals' own backfield needs a closer look, and that starts with Jordan Battle. Battle's effort is there, no doubt. But the missed tackles have piled up, 13 so far, the most on the team. That's a problem when you're the last line of defense. The Bengals need someone more consistent in open field situations, especially with how explosive opposing offenses have been this season. Two other names mentioned by Adam Schefter were Kyle Duggar and Tony Adams. Now, Duggar is intriguing but comes with a huge price tag, roughly $35 million over the next 2 seasons. That's a steep number for a team already managing big money deals with Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase, and potentially T. Higgins. Plus, Duggar's production has dipped, and injuries have slowed him down. Tony Adams, on the other hand, would be more affordable, but the question is he really an upgrade over Jordan Battle? He's steady, not spectacular, and that might not be enough to justify a trade. So for now, the Bengals might ride it out with Battle and hope coaching and experience settle his game down. But if missed tackles continue to cost them drives, don't be surprised if the front office quietly explores another move at safety. And speaking of upgrades, there's one area where help might be even more urgent, the running back room. Cincinnati just hasn't been able to establish consistent ground production this season. The line has struggled to create space, and the backs haven't found rhythm. Names like Breece Hall and Alvin Kamara are floating around trade rumors, but both come with complications. Hall would be a short-term rental before his rookie deal ends, and Kamara's contract simply doesn't fit the Bengals' structure. Still, adding a young, explosive runner could completely change the tone of this offense. If the Bengals want to make a push and give Joe Burrow more balance, finding a spark in the backfield might be the next bold move. Let's wrap this up by talking about the Bengals' offense, because if there's one unit under the spotlight right now, it's that side of the ball. The idea of trading for a high-priced back like Alvin Kamara sounds exciting, but it's just not realistic for Cincinnati.